Level Up is a regular podcast that brings you topics to help you perform at work and in life at your very highest level. Your host is Dan Chiodo, an executive coach, corporate trainer, and author. He is president of Impact Training and Executive Coaching. And now, here's Dan.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. And you are going to enjoy my guest today. Each year, we have a theme. And although this episode will be viewed toward the end of 2021, I'm going to introduce my theme for 2022. And the reason I'm going to do that is because my guest today really lives that. And when I saw this quote of what I want to use next year, I thought he's perfect for this quote. So I will debut it today. It's a quote I saw that says, "Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen, and some people wonder what happened." So I think it's really important to make things happen. And that's what my guest does. I've known him for a long time. And every time we've spent time together, he is always on the cutting edge. He is always doing things that will be done in the future. So a real futurist. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The reason I'm interviewing him is that he has written a book. And so we are going to talk about this book. Now, my guest today has had a lot of experience. He has actually had firsthand experience in not only technology, but the many facets of it, including artificial intelligence. And he's a charter member of national committees that are defining and promoting technology standards for compliance and interoperability of various computers and communication platforms. He is a carrier qualified jet pilot in the Navy, and he was the regional president of U.S. Home Corporation, the nation's largest land development and home building company. He has also been president and CEO of U.S. Telecom. And on top of that, a great husband, a great dad, a great granddad. And he's here today to talk about a book which actually has a name that he invented. It is called Intellopy. And so we're going to look at that. The book is Intellopy: Survival and Happiness in a Collapsing Society with Advancing Technology. And so I'd like to welcome JJ Kelly. Welcome, JJ.
Hi, Dan. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's so good to have you here because, wow, I haven't had anyone yet who's written a book so far, and certainly someone who hasn't come up with a term that is used for the book, that is the title of the book. So I thought I'd start with just asking you, how did you come to write this book?
Well, when people ask me how long did it take to write the book, you know, the quick answer is 3 years. But really, the deep answer is decades, because as I have a 30 to 40-year career in technology and business and communications, I mulled these ideas over and over and over as I was experiencing them. But when you're in the thick of a career and raising a family and everything else, you really don't have the time that it takes to sit down and do all the integrations of your thoughts that you would like to do, to connect all the dots that are just kind of floating out there, but not quite there. But over these last few years, I had that time. And so I decided, well, one thing that I know is a principle is that if you want to learn something, the best way to do that is to teach it, because teaching it makes you learn it. And so all these ideas that I had, I knew that if I was really going to pull them together, I needed to write a book. So the first motivation for writing the book was a selfish one. It was, I wanted to think these things through that were left dangling. And so that's what the last 3 years have been, is a finishing of something that I've been doing pretty much my whole adult life.
Excellent. So at some point, you thought about this term Intellopy. Could you explain that a little bit? What does that mean?
Well, it comes up about midway through the book when I'm dealing with evolution and what drives evolution and how evolution is a function of reality. And one of the things that I discovered in doing my research is that now that technology has taken over from biological evolution, we're now in an era of technological evolution as a human species. And we are the agents of evolution. And what do? We create, we innovate, we develop. We discover the laws of reality, and then we apply them to modify our environment. We do that by making things. That's what we call technology. And the more that we make things, the more we are taking dumb, inanimate matter in the universe and converting it to intelligent use. So we are intelligent matter. We're living beings. And we go out and we get a piece of iron ore and we convert it into steel to make skyscrapers, ships, airplanes, everything else. We're converting that matter to intelligent use. And mankind intends to convert essentially all the matter on Earth and then in our solar system and then in our galaxy and the rest of the universe to our intelligent use. We're planning on terraforming planets. We're talking about building Dyson spheres around suns to capture their energy. We intend to awaken the universe. So there was no term that I could find anywhere, whether it's in thermodynamics or in other parts of science, that describes the amount of intelligent matter in the universe versus dumb matter. In other words, to what degree has the universe been awakened? All we know about so far is here on Earth, but there could be other places in the universe. But as time progresses and we convert more and more matter to intelligent use, I needed a term to describe that, and that's Intellopy, because there was no term that I could find.
Wow, that is great.
So that's the degree to which the universe has awakened.
Yes. And I think the book is about 700 pages, so there's a lot of material there. Did you take notes over the years, or did you just kind of absorb this information? That's a lot of information to put in a book.
Yeah, well, there's technically there's 640. The body of the book's only about 500, and there's another 100 of formatter and appendix stuff. But notes, yes, I have quite a number of writings that I had done all through the years, mostly just getting ideas down that I was trying to think through. And there have been some structured learning and training programs that throughout my professional career where I attended different things and learned about myself and was exposed to a lot of ideas that most people aren't exposed to that caused me to connect the dots. What people need to know about me as an individual is that from my earliest childhood, I've been one of those people who's driven to understand what makes something work. And if there's something that I see doing something and I don't understand what's causing it, it sets up a stress that I've got to deal with until I understand what the cause is. And I've been that way for a long time, but only through decades of life's experience and professional experience have I been able to take that personal trait and apply it in broad spectrum principles, not just a narrow domain specific topic, but across all domains, all of our society, all of our technology, all of our biological existence. And so I'm a generalist. I have a very broad experience. I'm not a person who has spent his whole life in a particular professional domain with a PhD after my name. And so I'm not down in a silo where I really know a lot about this, but I don't know a whole lot about everything else. I know quite a bit about a lot of topics. And therefore, I'm able to make cross connections and integrations that some people might not be able to make, where I can see that something that's operational in one domain is essentially the same principle that's causing something in an entirely different domain. And therefore, I can identify broad scope functional principles that cause things that we see in fundamental ways across all of our life.
Yes. I think that's something really interesting for our viewers to think about. The fact that for some people, they're in one field their entire life.
Right.
And for others, they have done different things. And I always think that those different things bring a wealth of experience. But you dug down even deeper and took that experience and that knowledge to create a book. So
yeah, well, from pretty early age, probably in my teens, as I was experiencing different things in life, I remember having conscious thoughts about, well, I don't intend to do this my whole life, but this is a good experience, like an arrow in my quiver. It will come in useful someday. And so as I spent the decades collecting those arrows in my quiver, it wasn't until I got at this stage in life where I was able to say, okay, now how do all of these tie together?
Mm-hmm. That is good. That is good. I have an exercise I do with my coaching clients where I talk about all the jobs they've ever had. And for most of them, they've never thought about that and thought about the fact that they learn so much and can apply so much from different bosses, ones they liked, ones they didn't like, places they worked, the places they liked and didn't like, and all mean a lot. But you've really put that knowledge to task. I like that. Now, as you start the book, I have to ask you, you dedicate it to your grandchildren.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, even though it's dedicated to the grandchildren, the sentiment in the dedication applies to everyone who would be a reader. And it basically is the premise that each of us, when we were born, is a blank slate. And we have to learn all of the knowledge that's been discovered and accumulated in our society as we grow up. Unfortunately, as the readers will learn in the book, much of what our society will try to teach a person today is not grounded in reality. It's not valid knowledge. And by learning it, they're crippling their minds. And so I wanted the book to be there to provide the reality-based principles for my grandkids when they get to be, say, high school age. They're all now 7, 6, 5, and 4. But when they get to be high school age, I want this book to be there for them in case I am not. And it will give them the reality-based principles that they need to be able to tell truth from falsehood and to guide their lives through to navigate what's going to be a turbulent future, I think, to achieve their personal heroic vision.
Yes.
And that would be true of any reader, but certainly for my grandkids.
You also spend some time talking about artificial intelligence. Yes. And what is your concern there if we don't take control of our own thinking?
Yeah, well, the interesting explanation of what is causing our society to unravel. If you ask the question, is our society unraveling? I would say yes, it definitely is. And the reason is it is losing its connection to reality. Our rational faculty that thinks in terms of concepts can only validate knowledge by connecting it back to reality. We're used to doing that with things scientific and engineering wise, but we're not used to doing that with abstract ideas such as what is truth, what is knowledge, what is independence, what is freedom, what is justice, and what is love. In fact, most of our humanities studies tell us that those things cannot be answered by reason, that they come from somewhere else, like the heart. And that is totally false. And all ideas to be valid knowledge and not just floating abstractions have to be tied to reality. And the book explains how you can take something like freedom and connect it to independence and connect that to the fact that we have rationality instead of instinct, and connect that to how evolution replaced our instinct with our conscious faculty. And that's the nature of humans. We're the rational animals, as Aristotle said. And we can connect that to existence, saying, yes, there's a real existence, and yes, our senses are competent to grasp it. And so you can connect a highly abstract concept like freedom all the way back through the nature of what it means to be a human to the nature of existence and reality. And therefore, it's valid knowledge. Now, opposed to Aristotle, Plato said there is no real reality that we can grasp. Our mind is useless, and that we have to use our emotions that can get at the truth that's just inside us somehow, but no, there's no explanation as to how it got there. And so you have to decide whether you're going to be a person who accepts reality, reason, and the independence of your mind and its effectiveness and all the political ramifications of that, or you're a person who says nothing's knowable for certain, there is no reality, the mind is useless, trust your emotions, and all the political ramifications that come from that. Now, mankind has been rational only twice in all of human history in the 200,000 years since we developed our rational faculty. The first was the ancient Greeks for a period of 200 to 300 years, who accepted reason as an object worth of study and analysis. And in fact, Aristotle is the father of science, who gave us the definition, the logic of definitions and logic and the scientific method and all those things. But then Rome defeated Greece and brought their mysticism back into play, and reason fell from power again, and we entered the Dark Ages, and it lasted for 1,700 years, where mysticism ruled, not reason. And it wasn't until Aquinas tried to integrate Aristotle's teachings, which had resurfaced with religion, that led to that activity by Aquinas led to the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, and men of science like Galileo and Newton and those guys. So the Renaissance forward through today, we can call the modern period. It's been going on about 500 years. So there's only been two periods in all of human history where mysticism has not dominated and ruled society. The ancient Greeks for a couple hundred years, and the modern period for about 500 years. But we in the Western world, America was founded on Aristotelian principles, our Constitution and all that, very rational, reasoned principles, individualism, reality, independence. But it has been eroding away from that ever since the last 200, 250 years. We're abandoning reason. We're not connecting our ideas to reality. And that is what's causing society to unravel. And
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems to be a good point to take a break.
Okay.
Because I want to ask you more questions about the rest of the book. And I think our viewers can see that there are so many great tenets about this book and things about examining your life that are so important. I am Dan Chiodo, your host for Level Up. And today I have J.J. Kelly, author of Intellopy, Survival and Happiness in a Collapsing Society with Advancing Technology. We'll be right back after this.
If you're like most people, your thoughts tend to bounce all over the place. And when you are stressed or worried, they naturally gravitate towards the negative. Many are so accustomed to allowing negative thoughts, worry, fear, and stress to dominate their thinking, they don't even realize they're doing it. Some even feel guilty if they're not constantly thinking about their problems. Mind walking is a daily 15-minute exercise where you practice thinking on purpose while you walk. Just walk and listen as success coach Bill Mansell guides you through the mind walking exercises. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll learn how to get your mind's attention and focus your thoughts towards what's right in your life now and what you want to create in your future. Visit mindperk.com to learn more and purchase the Mind Walking program.
Thank you for coming back. I knew that you would, because today we have JJ Kelly, and he is our guest on Level Up for this episode. And we are talking about the book that he wrote, Intellopy. And we're talking about survival and happiness in a collapsing society with advancing technology. So now, JJ, I thought maybe you would give us an idea of the structure of the book and then maybe the outcomes that we can expect.
Thank you. Yes, Dan. There's basically 5 outcomes that one can expect by reading the book. The first is to become a new intellectual, and we touched on that before the break. By that, we mean how to take big abstract ideas such as truth, justice, freedom, love, and how you connect those back to reality. And we do that using our process of reason, instead of dealing with floating abstractions that have no basis in reality and they're just imagined. So people will learn how that process works. The second outcome is to learn how the world works. And by that, I identify in the book 6 critical processes. And the first critical process is evolution. And we touched on that before the break. Everything needs to be connected to reality. We have to remain connected to reality, and we're losing that connection in our society, and that is the source of our society's ills. The second critical process is our plastic brain. And in that, we learn how we use our conceptual thinking to program our brain's intelligence and our intelligence and our mental functions. We're in control and we can develop those, and it explains how that works. The third critical process is conceptual thinking. In other words, we have all this knowledge, but how do we validate it? How do we connect it to reality? How do you determine what valid knowledge is, and how do we use it to guide our lives? The fourth critical process is what I call the technology cycle. And the technology cycle explains how within our society, our knowledge, our technology, and our human intelligence continue to advance. What causes it to advance? It's a cycle. The next one is the ivory tower cycle. And that cycle is how just a handful of individuals in our society, they influence the changes in our society and the general ideas accepted by the masses, independent of what's going on in the technology cycle. And it's how ideas get promulgated throughout our society. And the last one is what I call happiness skills. And this kind of moves into the realm of psychology, where it talks about how your conceptual thinking shapes your psychology and ultimately your happiness. And so those are the 6 processes that you will learn to understand, and they explain virtually, well, they cause a series of cascading sub-processes, but these 6 explain everything you see happening out there in society and technology today. They're the fundamental principles based on reality, man's nature, and society, and how it all evolves. And once you understand those 6, you can take almost any issue that's happening out there today and say, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what's causing that. Okay. Then the third takeaway or benefit will be that you'll learn how to anticipate the future, particularly the technological future. We humans are entering what I call the transcendence phase of the conceptual period of evolution. And this is the phase where we're going to transcend our biology and we're going to become a new species, part human and part machine. And that's going to play out in just the next few decades. And so there are 8 technologies that I point out that I consider transcendent, meaning that in combination, these technologies will make that transition or that transcendence possible for us to become that new evolutionary species. And those technologies are, number 1, genetics, which is our biology; nanotechnology, which is the physical world; blockchain technology, which is our societal transactions; 5G network, which is the future of communications, telecommunications; artificial intelligence, which is machine intelligence; augmented human intelligence, which is enhancing our intelligence; quantum computing, okay, which is information processing; and fusion energy, which has to do with our energy sources. And so what I advise someone to do, and what the book provides, is a basic foundational primer or understanding of each of those 8 technologies, their status today, the terminology used, the issues they face, the opportunities and threats that they may bring, and how they integrate with each other to move us forward in this progression. Once a person has that basic understanding, then if you will monitor the progress of these 8 technologies as the years play out, then you'll be able to recognize the opportunities that will arise as they come. And then the 4th benefit is to achieve your heroic vision. We stand on the threshold of radically extended lifespans, living much, much longer than the generations before us. And no one wants to live a radically extended life in a state of unhappiness. And unfortunately, many people are a little frustrated that they haven't quite achieved this heroic vision they had for themselves as a child. And so Intellopy explains what it is you need to be paying, what you need to learn, what you need to do for yourself and your thinking, and what you see around you in society to understand where are you right now along all these lines of change. What's your present position? How do you map a course through a changing society to achieve that heroic vision that you have? And so achieving your heroic vision is that takeaway. And then the last one has to do with what can we do to prevent society's collapse? And that is, we need to apply technology beneficially. The cause of our collapse is the abandonment of reason and reality in our society. Our technology only serves to amplify and accelerate the negative consequences of that abandonment of reason and reality. It makes it happen, makes the bad things happen faster in our society. Well, if technology can accelerate bad ideas, technology can accelerate good ideas. And so it's critically important that we pay attention to how technology is being implemented in our society and in all of our institutions and in all of our transactions. It will either serve to promote reality, reason, individualism, freedom, or it's going to serve to promote the opposite, unreality, unreason, collectivism, okay, and totalitarianism. And we're already seeing it today. Artificial intelligence in machines is what's administering more and more and more of our institutions and our transactions with those institutions. And it is developers, people who apply the technology, who get to train those algorithms on the rules that all the rest of us have to comply with. And so it's going to be the ideas those people hold that we're going to find in the machines that more and more and more are controlling our lives. So we need people to become aware of the problem and have a skill set to know what to look for in applied technology to be able to judge, is this technology's application going to make things better for our society, or is it going to make things worse? And so if a person has a role in an organization that has to do with applying technology, this will provide them the personal grounding and the moral principles they're looking for. It will give them the structured logic content that will help them have confidence, and give them the skills in guiding the discussions within their organization about how to critique technology, how to make sure it's being applied in some beneficial way, not some harmful way. And if you're not in the role for applying technology, you may be interested in knowing how to critique technology and its applications. And that's what the last takeaway of the book is. So those are the 5 takeaways: 6 critical technologies and 8 transcendent technologies. And that's more or less the structure of the book.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that in such a succinct way. Mm-hmm. You cover so many disciplines in this book, and the more you read it, the more you can have questions about your own life and answer some of the questions with the material that you present. Mm-hmm. So I thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I'm going to tell our viewers this is a must read. Okay. So let's see. Could you show us a copy there so we know what we're looking for?
Yeah, it will be made available through Amazon in both Kindle and paperback. And it's not available just yet. I expect it to be available in mid-September. This is a proof copy from Amazon of the paperback. In fact, it says not for resale on it there on that watermark. But it is available for pre-order on the Kindle version at Amazon now. You can just go to Amazon and just type in the search on Intellopy, and it'll take you right to the book. And if anyone wishes to do so, instead of pre-ordering, I also have a website, Intellopy.com, an author's website for the book. And there is a place there to register your email and or cell phone text number to be notified of the launch date for the book. And the book will be initially launched at the lowest prices Amazon will let me set for a limited time, so that all of our early followers can go get their copy as soon as it's launched.
That's great. And just for reference, the September you referred to is 2021. So by the end of the year, and when this appears, the book will be available. So
that's right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that some of these topics are so great, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you if you'll come back in 2022 to talk about some of those topics. Would that be okay?
Oh, I would love to. Love to.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, JJ. I appreciate all the time and wisdom and for coming on Level Up to debut your book. That's been wonderful.
Well, thank you, Dan. And I also thank you for being one of my early readers of the book and helping provide feedback.
That's
extremely helpful.
It's a privilege. It is a privilege. Hey, to our viewers, thank you for joining us today on Level Up. And we'd like you to come and, well, not only look at this particular video podcast, but also look at the show notes. Our team put show notes on every one, and you can take a look and see some things that you want to apply in your own life. After all, we talked about the theme, make things happen. So look at some of the show notes from some of the things that JJ said and highlight them. Just do one at a time and come back and get some more knowledge from that. We will save you a front row seat at the next Level Up. 2022 will have 12 more episodes. And at this point in the year, I really want to thank the Storm Cloud team for doing such a great job in putting it together. That would be Dustin and Candace and Shane and Jesse, Emily, Davida, and Tony. Thank you for being the team that does this. And now, Dustin, I think it's time for you to close the door on 2021.
If you feel like this information was valuable to you, Dan would love it if you'd click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's episode, please leave a comment. Also, if you're a first-time subscriber, be sure to ring that bell to be notified about future episodes. To learn more about what Impact's training and development can do for you and your business, visit impactbydan.com, where you can find more information about executive coaching, corporate training, keynote speaking, and much more. Thanks so much for watching.